of 100 Days with Jesus. We're focusing on another chapter of the Gospels, and the chapter that we're focusing on tonight is Matthew chapter 20. In fact, this is our last chapter to cover before focusing on this, focusing 30 days, taking 30 days straight to like focus on that last week that Jesus had with his disciples. So we'll start moving on to that next time I jump on here. So, the very first part of chapter 20 is a parable that was not included in Mark. It was one that we are gifted by Matthew, since Mark did not supply that one to us. So, anyway, is Jesus telling a parable about the kingdom of heaven, being like a landowner who went early in the morning to hire servants for his vineyard? And then he went later on and he hired more servants. And then he went later on and hired more and on, so on and so forth. And he went as late as 5 o'clock and hired some more. And then when it came time to pay the servants, he wound up paying the so when he went to pay them, he was paying them all the same thing. And the people who had been there all day, they were like, "W- why did they get the same that we do? And we were, and that's where the master replied, "Friend, I'm doing no wrong. Didn't you agree with me on a denarius? Take what's yours and go. I want to give this last man the same as I gave you." And the thing is, they would have been working. I mean, there's a good reason for it. They would have been working had they been approached earlier. The only reason why they hadn't been working is because no one had approached them yet. That's what they told the master. He said, "Take what's yours and go. I want to give this last man the same as I gave you. Don't I have the right to do what I want with my business? Are you jealous because I'm generous?" Jesus focuses a lot on generosity throughout his whole entire ministry, throughout all of his teaching, throughout so much of his acts that he did. Um, so last will be first, he says, and the first will be last. And that principle, that said multiple times, multiple ways, that idea, the last will be first and the first will be last. And then Jesus goes on to tell a third time here in the Gospel of Matthew. We've already hit the third time that he did it in the Gospel of Mark, but a third time where he's telling his disciples, he's spelling out clearly to his disciples what's about to happen, how they're about to go to Jerusalem. And he pulls his 12 disciples in particular aside, talks to them privately, and spells out to them very clearly, we're about to go to Jerusalem, and when we go to Jerusalem, the Son of Man will be handed over to the chief priests and the scribes, and then they will condemn him to death, and then they will hand him over to the Gentiles, the Romans particularly, to be mocked, flogged, and crucified, and he will be resurrected on the third day. And, Mark helps us out by telling us they somehow did not quite understand exactly what Jesus was saying at that point, but they look back on it later on and realize fully and very clearly what Jesus was saying. And then John and James, two of the disciples, their mom, um, they came, and which is Zebedee's son, Zebedee's wife. This is uh, Zebedee's wife, John and James' mother. They come, and she comes in behalf of John and James and says to Jesus, "Hey, um, promise me," she said to him, "that these two sons of mine, they may sit one on your right and one on the left in your kingdom." And according to the other gospels, John and James asked this. So, in other words, when you look at both the different gospel accounts and you put them together, they all three were asking. Um, Maybe their mom was leading the charge, but Jesus answered and said, "You don't know what you're asking. Are you able to drink the cup that I'm about to drink?" And he says that particularly to John and James. "We are able," they said to him. And this was talked about in Mark, and we've already covered that. But you will indeed drink my cup, but to sit at my right hand and my left, that's not mine to give. Instead, it belongs to those to whom it has been prepared for by my Father. And when the 10 disciples heard this, they became indignant at the two brothers. But Jesus called them over and said, "You know the rulers of the Gentiles, the way they do things, they dominate those that are under them, and the men of high positions exercise power over them. It must not be like that for you. On the contrary, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to become first must become a slave to all. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served." And he's not telling us something he's not willing to do himself. He did it more than anybody else ever. Just the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom. And who is he talking about when he talks about the Son of Man? All throughout the Gospels, he refers to himself as the Son of Man, and is exactly who he's referring to here. And but this is literally the way it was said in Mark's Gospel as well. The Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom. Some would say that is the theme verse of the whole entire Gospel. And as they were leaving to go to Jericho, one of the Gospels tells us, matter of fact, Mark tells us that there was one particular blind beggar. His name was Bartimaeus, son of Timaeus. But here in Matthew's Gospel, it tells us there was also another. So Bartimaeus, yes, but another with Bartimaeus as well, yes. There's two blind men sitting on the road begging, and they hear all this commotion. They hear all this noise because all these crowds are following Jesus. Just as Jesus is leaving Jericho on the way to Jerusalem, as he's making this march to Jerusalem, they say, "Lord, have mercy on me, son of David," which is a messianic title. It's when calling Jesus by the name, they are identifying Jesus as the Messiah. They're declaring faith in the fact that Jesus is the Messiah, the chosen one, and one that was promised long ago, even all the way back to Genesis 3, but all throughout the Old Testament. And the crowd told them to keep quiet, but that just added fuel to their fire. They cried out all the more, "Lord, have mercy on us, son of David." And Jesus stopped everything and he called them and he said, "What do you want me to do for you?" And they said, "Lord, open our eyes." And they had faith in him that he was the Messiah, and they had faith in him that he'd open their eyes. And moved with compassion, Jesus touched their eyes, and immediately they could see, and they began to continue. They joined the people that were following him, because now they could see to do so, and now they were doing so. And this concludes the last chapter of Matthew, also the last chapter of Matthew and Mark, before we join Jesus on his journey into Jerusalem, not just to Jerusalem, but into Jerusalem. Tomorrow we'll pick up there as Jesus is journeying into Jerusalem and entering into Jerusalem. So it's a lot going on in these next 30 days, covering those last, say, 7 days or so that Jesus was with them. So anyway, looking forward to that. Um, if you need to cry out to Jesus tonight, Son of David, Lord, have mercy on me for whatever it is that you need. It may be something worse than blind eyes. It may be spiritually blind eyes. It may be a cold heart. It may be a need that you have for Jesus in your life that you've never accepted him as the Lord and Savior of your life. Give your life over to him. If you've gotten away from following him like you used to, get back to following him like you used to. Be on fire for Jesus. Be blessed.